Maël Fabien, welcome back to Double Tap.
Hey, really happy to be here again.
Yeah, it's lovely to be back on. It's been a while since we spoke. And of course, last time we talked about your wearable device, and I want to talk a little bit more about that for people who aren't aware of it at this stage. Let's maybe start there, actually. But I also want to talk about this new Noah chat feature, which is available through WhatsApp. But we'll get into all that in just a moment. But let's start with really what BiPed is all about, and that wearable, which is called Noah. Now, am I missing something here, or was it always called Noah? Because I was used to call it the BiPed device. Was I getting it wrong all this time?
No, 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 no. You got it completely right, and it's a internal change that we brought because we started adding features to the BiPed device over time. And the moment we actually added this AI feature, it kind of became a bit clearer that it was not going to be on like the vision that we had behind BiPed was to do obstacle avoidance and GPS in a single device. And then the idea of adding visual descriptions of the surroundings came, and it started to become quite clear that would actually be super cool to rename the device and reflect the fact that it does navigation, obstacle avoidance, and AI. So Noah, and Noah also means
Ah,
movement in Hebrew. So it was like quite a fun rebranding somehow. Um, and on the hardware side, it actually brought one key change, which was so for those of you who are not familiar with the form factor of the device, it's a wearable that goes on the shoulders. It's about 2 pounds. It's got cameras on the left hand side, small computer on the right hand side of the chest, and then a battery pack behind the neck. And so what we added on the right hand side is a set of buttons. And so on the right hand side now you have buttons to be smartphone free in that sense. So you can control the navigation, control the obstacle avoidance, and control the AI features, such as, what are you looking for in the scene, for example, and then just press these buttons and get a description of it.
and you need a smartphone to set it up, right? But what you're saying is with these buttons, you can control it out and about without the need for the smartphone to be out in your hand.
Yes, absolutely. And so you can have the smartphone in the backpack, for example, or in the pocket,
Yeah.
and then have basically the device be the main point of interaction for your A to B kind of mobility. And that's actually like a request that we had from a lot of end users, which was, hey, it's cool, but I need to take my smartphone out way too often to change stuff on the device. Like I'm entering a crowded area. I want to be able to turn off obstacle avoidance, or I want to shorten the collision detection range. And adding buttons was the probably like the easiest way to go around this without having to, open the app every time, which was definitely a time bottleneck.
Yeah, I mean, look, we talk about it a lot on the show. The amount of people who have their smartphones snatched while out and
Yep.
about, and blind people are going to be at as much risk of that as anyone else. But we do need our smartphones out. I mean, a lot of people don't need their smartphones out. They're too busy taking pictures of their own face, Smile. They're not, doing serious stuff. We are trying to navigate and get around. So we need our smartphones in our hands. If we can avoid that at all, that is brilliant. So talk me through just for the audience who will be curious about this, perhaps learning about this product for the first time, how you would navigate with this. It's not a replacement for a guide dog or a cane, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. We really designed it as an addition, as a complement to the use of a guide dog or a white cane. We actually have two modes for the device. So you can use it in the guide dog mode or use it in a white cane mode. Um, it's once it's on your shoulders, basically the cameras that are on the left hand side of your chest will scan 170 degrees of field of view. And using that, we've got an internal AI system that will try to pick up potential obstacles and generate beeps. So it's an audio feedback for the end user. So of course, many of you are familiar with the Open Run headphones from Shocks. So any bone conduction headphones, it works with any headphones in general. But you're just going to hear beeps for potential collisions. You can like customize the range. You can detect obstacles that the cane is likely to miss or that the guide dog might miss. You can detect holes in the ground. So it's just a beep, higher pitch beep for a head level and lower pitch beep for a ground level obstacle. But where we really push the complementarity is the fact that if your cane is likely to detect an obstacle, then the device, the NOAA device, actually has the ability to mute that obstacle because we know that the cane will already pick it up. So that's something you can
Wow.
fully customize because we can see like the whole range, and so we know if the obstacle is attached to the ground, and if it's a flat wall, then in that case we know that it's a flat wall, and so your cane will actually pick it up, and there's no like head level danger. And that's something that's very easy to customize and do once on the app.
Yeah,
Um,
because you don't want to be getting almost too much information, especially when the
Absolutely.
cane is doing the job. Now, you said white cane mode and guide dog mode. I mean, is that like a choice you make in the setup? You say, I have a guide dog, I have a white cane?
Yeah, so when you start walking, basically when you start a session, you basically can just specify whether you're using a cane or a dog during that session.
Hmm.
But otherwise it just saves your favorite setting. So we have some users who would sometimes be using a dog, and then in some cases the dog can't come, and then
Yeah.
they use a cane. So that's one switch they do through the app. But otherwise it's your favorite setting, and you define it once. Um, and that's mostly, we also added the option, like trying to listen as much as possible to the feedback that we got, having the option to mute obstacle detection at all, and just being able to say, look, I'm entering a public transport, like we're in Switzerland, it's quite heavy on public transports here, and especially trains, and so you're entering a train, it's very crowded, just having the option to completely mute obstacle avoidance while still having your GPS that's guiding you and an AI system that's capable of finding an empty seat somewhere, or describing your surroundings, etc., etc.
One of the challenges I have, and I'm sure a lot of people have this too, and you'll no doubt hear this when you get feedback from people, is that sort of real world reality of using devices like this. You're in a crowded environment, you may be trying to talk to a device, it can't quite hear you, it's not quite picking up, it's talking, but you can't quite hear it. Someone else is talking to you as well. So, if you have some kind of reactionary AI always available to you, there's a good chance it's going to pick up what someone else is saying, not just you. So, how are you dealing with all of that? Because you really are dealing with the outdoors and the
Yeah.
reality of the challenge of outdoors with this device.
Yes, absolutely. So we also brought a couple of changes to that. The first one is we managed to tweak the sounds so that they actually feel a lot louder. So when you want to hear them, we give full control. Like you can mute the GPS system, you can mute the obstacle avoidance, you can mute the AI system in just a click. You can also, if you're like bumping into someone, you want to talk to someone, just a single click on the front case on the right hand side will completely pause the device. And
Brilliant.
so it's not something you need to take your phone out anymore to do. We've tweaked all the sounds so that they actually feel a lot louder. But the I think for us, like the cool thing really in the way this device is going to work is that you can, like in the interactions that you have with people, you can really, really decide if you want to use one feature or not. And that really makes it, I think, a lot more like real life proof somehow. And this is really what we've been focusing on getting, like, sliding in the battery and the device starts. You don't need to take the phone out or anything. It just pairs to your headphones and, it gets going. Um, and I think all these utilities is something we, to be honest, like at the beginning, we totally underestimated. We're like, yeah, let's do technology that works. But
Yeah.
if it's not easy to use, and if it takes like 45 seconds to boot up in the first place, etc., then it's actually just quite annoying. Um, and I think there's also one point on having access to, and this is why we're so bullish on having this like secondary mobility aid kind of status, is like the when you work together with the cane or together with the dog, you really want to minimize the number of information that you're providing to the user so that it really, really is tailored for what the person might actually be looking for.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, so I think like all of these are part of the answers. And there's one cool thing we did on the hardware side. We added like a backward and forward button. And so if you're, I don't know, like fire truck passing by, you were listening to an instruction, but it, just like something super loud
Yeah, you missed it.
just came up, then you can actually play this replay button. And so it just like plays back the any audio that was played in the last 20 seconds. So that's also just a small utility.
I need that for my life. I need something to be listening that can say, "What did that person just say? What was that phone number? What was that thing?" I mean, this is where AI kind of comes in as well, right? I guess
Yeah.
because you get so many great abilities now to go beyond the traditional approach to this kind of navigation technology, which was about perhaps haptics or using kind of buzzing or and it was all sensor based. It's more than that now because you can actually verbalize a lot of the information that's being seen. So whilst the sensors are picking it up, the AI is reading it in a way and it's being able to present it to us in a much more human way. But it is the challenge, isn't it? It is the challenge of being able to do it in a timely and a concise way so that someone is not overwhelmed, but also getting too much information or is taking too long for that information to come across.
Yeah. And I mean, the pace of evolution of that field is absolutely amazing. It's, I
Frantic.
mean, we're just, sometimes it's just like, I'm nearly feeling desperate. We just deployed a new version that uses this like Gemini Flash version, and we've been benchmarking a couple of things for the AI models actually. And well, it turns out, Gemini does a super cool job. It lacks this like 3D consistency. So it
Mm.
like when Gemini tries to describe a distance or an angle or things like these, it's actually a pretty bad model, but it's super fast. And so what we're focusing on doing is say, let's add a 3D physical representation of the world that our cameras, because it's 3D cameras that they have, to these models. And the methods we're applying actually give it a pretty nice like physical coherence when they come to like describe the world. Because if something is like 10 feet away or 20 feet away, it's actually quite different, and it just makes sense that it's reflected correctly in the way this is being pronounced for the end user. But now I don't know, last night, it's like Gemini Flash 2.0 came up and we were like, okay, well, now we got some more work to do because it's actually some of these models where it can change like from 1 week to another. And I know that a lot of teams in assistive technology are just like benchmarking all the time what these large language model companies are building because it's such cool addition. And we're really seeing something move from a like it used to be just a year back, having like a vision, like a visual description of your surroundings being done in like 15, 20 seconds was already really cool. And then gradually the expectations are shifting towards, hey, I want it to answer within just a few seconds to, I actually want this to answer in real time. And this is also where like the whole market is going. So we really think this is going in the direction of you need a like still the traditional sensors of like having the distance and the GPS information to provide like the core mobility aspects, but then real-time information access on top that can be tailored is probably something that goes in the right direction. I don't know exactly, what the form factor should be or how people should be interacting with such stuff, but I'm very happy that where there are a couple of companies that try to build something like this, including in mobility.
Well, I mean, I think the interesting thing about AI is that the expectations very quickly become normalized. And
Yeah.
even amongst some of the most, or least, you might say, technical users, I think back to the days when it would take, and it wasn't that long ago, at least it doesn't feel that long ago, celebrating my 43rd birthday recently. I feel very old, especially when, kids of today, you don't even know what dial-up internet was. And, I remember it would take, the best part of an hour to download an image on the
Yep.
web. Whereas now, if my Facebook feed doesn't load within a second, I want to trash the phone. And that's the reality we're in now, right? The expectation becomes the norm. Suddenly we have this ability to get information so quickly.
Yep.
We want it quicker. We want it all the time. But of course, there's a slight difference when it comes to mobility, because ultimately you want information. A good example of this is hailing a bus. So if you hail a bus, you have a very short window of being able to see that bus, the image to be captured by the device, and then the information relayed back to you before the bus either drives off or even drives right past. So there is a need to speed up and get a faster response, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think in like mobility really has this aspect where you cannot get the models to make hallucinations somehow, or
Mm,
you need to have like a very, very good control. Because if it's describing somehow like a crosswalk that's located slightly to your right, but turns out there's no crosswalk in the scene, or it's slightly to your left, it's going to potentially misguide the user by,
that could be
big
dangerous.
factor. Yeah, and that could
Yeah.
be really dangerous. Um, which is why I think there's the whole phase where acting as a secondary mobility aid, at least for like the next few years, is probably
Yes.
a pretty realistic expectation. And then let's see, I never want to say that, that I studied AI as my main master's, but I'm still amazed by the speed at which everything is going. So let's see where this goes. But on the other hand, you also want this to be a like a super fast answer, as you just said. And if you count on like doing vision language model, like purely vision language model based type of navigation with like a voice that gradually describes what's happening around you, then even a 1 second latency is way too much.
Yeah.
Because by experience, what we've seen is that anything that is slower than 10 frames per second is actually going to feel laggish somehow if you need the information. So it's like pedestrian coming your way and you want to describe there's a pedestrian coming your way, and it appears that, this pedestrian might be like a source of danger and bump into you because, I don't know, they're looking at their phone or whatever. In that case, you've got like, yeah, if you do anything less than one tenth of a second, you're going to feel like you're reacting too late. So I think it's a bit of like the extreme case the day you can do this type of um, cover this type of use case for LLMs and VLMs in general.
Now, look, I know we're getting a bit geeky for some of the audience who'll be saying, okay, this is all fine, but just tell me how the
Yep.
damn thing works. Because, look, I think for a lot of us, the question
Yep.
is, what is that experience like? So I get up in the morning, I'm going out, I put this device around my neck. You're wearing it
Yep.
there. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see Maël actually wearing the device. You put it on, you said you slide the battery in, it turns on. Let's say I want to go to a store that I haven't been to in my local area. So I'm going to go out walking and I'm going to head to that store. How do I put the GPS information in? Where's it getting the information from? How do I set it up for the day?
Yeah. So you've got two scenarios. It's either you have already defined this as a potential navigation, as potential point of interest, and you can save this among your favorite destinations. In which case, you would have buttons on the right-hand side of the device, and you can just click on the navigation button number one and go through your menu of your favorite destinations.
Okay.
I hit with my thumb on the left side of that right module. I just click and it selects the destination and it computes basically the path to get there. And then I would have an audio that starts to basically tell me, computing the navigation path to your favorite destination. And then it would give you clockwise navigation instructions with turn by turn confirmations of the turns you just made. So turn right at 2 o'clock, and then you just hear like a to tell you that the destination, like the angle you took was correct. And then along the path, it would repeat that to as long as you need to continue straight. And then upon arriving at your destination, it would tell you your destination is on the right. And this is where on this, like this whole segment, what we what we have identified is like during that whole segment where the system just tells you continue straight for 200 feet, for example. In that case, you would want to detect obstacles along the path. And so you can customize which obstacles you want to detect or like where you want to detect obstacles, whether you're using cane, whether you're using a dog, or whether you're not using anything. And you have these three modes that you can customize. If there is like a low hanging branch, for example, somewhere in the middle, then you'd hear beep, 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 with a high pitch beep for the head, low pitch beep for ground level. Rotating your shoulders, if you find that there are no sounds, for example, to the left, it means the obstacle is slightly to the right, and then you can go around the obstacle. An easier way to actually know where the obstacle is located is we are using 3D sounds. So you can hear the sound slightly to your right, take a slight step to your left. You don't hear anything anymore. It means the path ahead is free, and you can just continue on that GPS path. Um, and then upon arriving at your destination, basically, if you have never been to that store, you don't know the layout, for example, of the place. You can either do a double press. That would be like the main interaction, like a double press on the right hand side of the device, and that does like a full scene description that is aware of your GPS context. So if we know that you're looking for the entrance of that supermarket, for
Mm.
example, then it's going to describe the scene, but highlighting where the entrance of the supermarket is and where the door is, for example, or if it's like a revolving door, if it's a glass door, that seems to be automatically sliding, etc., etc. Um, so
And
yeah,
can
so
it
that would
guide you
be
to that? Can it guide you into the door, or does it just tell you roughly where it is?
good point. We're working quite actively with orientation and mobility specialists because right now we do have a quite accurate description of where that door is actually located. But guiding someone to that door um, takes a step we have never explored so far, which is guiding someone along a path.
Mm.
Um, with the risks of having, ideally, mobility trainers also have this vision that we tend to share that once you describe something, then this is also good exercise at the cane or guide dog level to find the entrance and
Yeah.
use like spatial, like continue. It's a bit, like continuing O&M practice a bit every day somehow. But in theory, yes, it's something that's feasible. We just want to work out like the best solution for this.
You see,
And
I think that's actually really important you say that because I talk to a lot of people, especially those who are totally blind, who say
yeah,
the key, and I agree 100% with this, that you really must use every tool in your toolbox. You know, you cannot, I don't think we can ever get to the point where we can hand over everything to technology. And I think that's a dangerous thing to do anyway. For one
yeah,
simple thing, for one simple reason. If the battery died, what do you
yeah,
do? Right? What do you do then? So you can't rely entirely on technology. That's where the O&M skills are so important. That's why, as you're saying right now,
yeah,
this is a complementary to a guide dog or cane, because ultimately, you still need that dog or that cane to be able to get you from place to place. In the same way that, even having a cane, I still have a spare cane in my bag in case the elastic in this one snaps.
yeah.
So, these are the really important things that are key here. So, I think it's really good that you're saying that because the idea is, I think some people feel that we're going to get to a stage where technology will just solve all this. And I don't know if it ever will, to be perfectly honest. I don't know if it ever should.
Yeah, I mean, and there are so many markets where this is also the case. Like, look at, for example, I have a background in programming. Look at nowadays, like a lot of people talk about is AI programmers, and having software that just writes itself, and people not having to learn how to code anymore. Um, sure, I think there are like some stuff you can get done with these AI systems that can code for you, but if you don't have the fundamentals of being able to, understand what the code's doing, what to edit, then the day these AI assistants where you just have to put your credit card, the day like you don't put your credit card anymore, then you
No.
don't know how to maintain that system. And I think the parallel is quite, like a lot of people probably want these AI assistants to write code for themselves and like, just be out there and like handle everything. But the day there's an issue with that technology or that you actually want to get something done by yourself, then it's a lot trickier. And I think it's really where I would draw the parallel with what I would expect in mobility. There are lots of ways you could, pushing it forward. Like you could imagine these Boston Dynamics dogs, like, just going around and
Mm,
then you can just follow like a robotic dog, but same, like the day it runs out of battery, what happens? Um,
yeah.
and yeah.
That's it. Remind us how much Noah costs. I remember it was over £5,000, I believe, when I last checked in with you.
Yeah, so the device is at 4,950 USD or 3,800 pounds.
Oh, it's come down. Okay, it's come down in price.
And we're also doing a subscription system. So typically in the UK, we're going to be working with Sight and Sound. So we'll announce the subscription system on our website quite soon. But it's going to be a good way to also get the device for like a trial period, and then also pay monthly
Mm.
upon the use of the device.
And what about Canada?
In Canada, we are also going to, I mean, so far in Canada, we are opening up a couple of discussions with potential distributors. But it's going to be, yeah, still, I think a couple of weeks until we get an agreement through. Because of course, one of our points is we can already ship devices there.
Mm.
But the main issue is if you have someone who's self-on boards, who has no local contact points, no local person who can also help train, no support center and nothing, it's also a bit harder.
Yeah,
But yeah, but this is like we're reaching the final stage. It's such a long process to set up a distribution network. It's I
I
just
can
wish
only
it were
imagine.
easier.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I want to talk to you about Noah Chat because a lot of people
Yeah.
are excited about this because essentially it's not quite the same as the device, but it does give you the ability to question what's in front of you using WhatsApp by taking a picture and getting back a response. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the idea behind Noah Chat is to say we're doing lots of work on our AI system that's working on the Noah device. But turns out for that specific AI part of actually like looking for something or getting a description of your surroundings, that can actually run on either an app or at least on the smartphone. And just looking at, talking to a couple of schools, we noticed that many of them that are involved in the assistive technology training at some point do like classes on apps for messaging. And WhatsApp was definitely one of them because it's also a rather accessible platform. And so the idea came to say, why don't we build a small AI assistant that's just a contact number in WhatsApp and have the Noah AI app that's actually just going to reply to any picture or video that you send it. And so you can, like, the use cases we're seeing of that is you're entering somewhere, taking a picture. You can actually just even have like program shortcuts on your iPhone with the latest versions, like with this quick action button on the iPhone. I think it started at iPhone 15. Um, but just have this aspect where it just opens up the WhatsApp conversation. You send a picture, and then you get a reply back that describes your surroundings and where that element of interest is, for example. And one cool extension of that is you can actually record a video and ask a question in your video, like, how do I get out of this place? Or where is the cashier? Or, like just these kind of questions, and then get a reply back within, on average, I'd say 5 to 7 seconds. So it's a free phone number. It's a cool, just a cool way to show what we do. And I think we are seeing a good use of that so far.
Now, and you mentioned it's free. I did see on the website that it also has a subscription option for unlimited use, right? So I'm guessing you get so many pictures a day or videos you can send a day.
Yeah, then my accountant started to call me and say, you're burning the credits. No, but it's got a certain number of questions that you can ask for free.
Okay.
It's actually reset every week. Um, and if you want an unlimited one where some users would be quite heavy on like using that video service, where you can actually just record like a 20 seconds video where you film your surroundings and you ask a very specific question of where like the bus stop is located, etc., etc. Then in that case, that's a bit more expensive to process. And we have a subscription system that's in a range of €9 per month.
Now, there's a lot of us out here, and I'm wearing mine right now, the Meta Ray-Ban glasses. A lot of us who are wearing these are kind of intrigued by this Noah chat idea because we could, in theory, I guess, take a picture, and if we save Noah chat as a contact in our
Yep.
phones, we could take a picture, and you can actually do it by voice. You don't even have to touch the glasses. You can say, send a picture to Noah Chat or whatever you've called it in your phone. And I'm guessing then if you've set everything up properly, you would be able to get that audio response saying Noah's sent you a message and this is the response, and read back to you essentially a description of what you're seeing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that becomes a use case that I think it's a bit of a hack around what um, the fact that some of the access to the camera's feeds from these glasses are somehow a bit stuck right now.
Mm,
Also because they're everyone at Meta is also pushing for lots of like great AI applications around these glasses. But if you want something that is specifically prompted for mobility or visual descriptions that do make sense for visually impaired users, I think in that case that's a pretty nice idea. So we've done some first tests with that. It looks quite promising. It requires a bit of a setup, but the automation is, I think, looking promising so far. It's a workaround, of course. I just wish it
mm.
were easier, but I think it's interesting. Yeah.
Well, you know what blind people are like. We're always looking for the way in to, try something that'll,
Yeah.
square peg round hole. And we often try and find it because we know it will benefit us. And look, let's be honest about it. Meta AI is not tuned, if you like, for blind people, right? It's built for the mainstream. So for that reason, we're always looking for something that is going to be more tuned to us. And this certainly seems to be that. Now, how does it work? How do we actually get access to it? Are we literally just adding this number that you've got as a contact and it go from there? Or do you have to sign up for it? How does it go?
Yeah, so you don't have to. So everything is done in WhatsApp, so that's also quite cool. Like we do group onboarding. Also, like we have a contact form where we have some. For example, we work with some schools for the blind that have like this assistive technology training program, so we can do like a group demo. But otherwise, it's a fully self onboard type of thing. It's just one phone number. It's actually in the footer of our website, and we also have like a just a dedicated tab on our website for Noah Chat. You add the contact and then you can send it pictures. It's just going to ask for your name and email in the first place, but just through WhatsApp directly.
Mm.
And yeah, and then you're like good to go and like send pictures and videos. You can also ask follow-up questions, including over voice notes, which is quite interesting. Like you can take a picture and then you get a reply back, like overall description, and you're like, oh, okay, but what does that sign specifically say? And that's the type of interactions you can imagine.
You said over voice notes. Can I send a voice message to it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. So I can send a voice recording. As
Yeah, yeah,
wow, that's pretty
yeah.
cool. Because I must admit, you tapped into this so well. Because you know what blind people are like. We do love our voice messages. A lot of people, seems the mainstream don't like voice messages, but blind people love them. That's really cool. So it's obviously transcribing that and then responding, or it's
Yeah.
reading that back, and that's
Yes.
brilliant. That's absolutely
And
brilliant.
so what it does is that it keeps the image or the video in context for a couple of minutes. So if you're like taking a picture, for example, then for like the next couple of minutes, you'll be able to ask follow-up questions and it will remember that picture. But then, if like you get back to that conversation 3 hours later,
Yeah.
then we're assuming that that picture is not accurate or like relevant anymore. And so you just have to send a new picture. But it's just going to remind you by saying, hey, send me a new picture and then I'd be able to help.
I see. What you should have called it Noah Now. You see, there you go. That's what you should have called it.
Yeah.
Noah Now of the moment.
Yeah, that's smart.
Listen, that is really interesting to learn about how you're getting on with your device, and as well as that, this Noah Chat app, which a lot of people, well, I say app, the feature is rolling out. That is wonderful. Thank you so much for coming on, Maël. Come back soon and tell us more about BiPed.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was really, really cool to chat.